It's Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is episode 298. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me are the winterized members of the Song Talk Radio action team. We have Frostbite Phil.
I am very frostbitten indeed.
And normally we would have Mittens Mike here, but he's home with a cold, I think.
Ooh, Mittens Mike, I like
He's
that.
sick.
He's sick. And on social media tonight, we have Really Cold Rita.
Yes.
And also on social media tonight, we have Very Cold Vanessa.
Very cold Vanessa.
Vanessa's in the house.
Vanessa's in the house.
Really
In
cold
the
Rita
house.
and very cold Vanessa.
Yes. During the show, send in your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback@songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts with the audience. And please visit us, songtalk.ca, to find out how you can be a guest on the show. And before we get to tonight's guest, Phil's got some news from the news desk.
This just in. Right, so we got a couple of things. First, we want to talk about the second annual holiday gift guide coming up. That's next week, I think.
Yes, it is.
And we've already started to get some great suggestions from listeners. They're really cool. So please send us your suggestions. And even if you have a product that you want to sell, why don't you just send it our way, and we'll take a look at it, and maybe include that in the guide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And also we got an email, and we love emails from Daryl E. About the 6-year anniversary special show we had.
Yep.
For your information, after 21 years online, the Muse's Muse has shut its doors. The site was mentioned on the 6-year anniversary special. Thanks, Gerald, for letting us know.
Yeah.
That's a real shame.
Yeah, so I looked into this, and sure enough, there were two sides to the Muse's Muse online community. They had a bunch of songwriter resources, and they did like CD reviews and that sort of thing. And then there was also the forum, and the forum was what I was talking about last week, and where our old social media person Janice used to go on to a lot too. Especially if you're a lyricist or songwriter, you can go on there and collaborate with others and things like that. The forum is still alive. It's called Muse.
Oh, okay.
It's called Muse's Songwriters.
Oh, okay.
Muse Songwriters. I changed the link on our 6-year anniversary page, so it takes you to the correct link now. But in other words, like this, so the other flip page of there, like all the resources and stuff, they shut that down.
Really?
Weren't
the resources just sort of like static pages of?
I think I'm not sure what the reason was, but I think what ended up happening is some of the more frequent users of the forum said, "Hey, we'll just take over the forum and keep the community alive," because my posts are still there from like 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
They're still on there.
Well, it takes a lot of money to actually keep those things going.
It takes money, it takes effort, and it takes monitoring it and keeping it alive.
Well, and I all know that we all hate ads. We all have those ad blockers, but I mean those ads do pay for web hosting, and web hosting costs money.
Yeah.
So it's sad to see that, but I'm glad to see that the forums are still going.
The forum is still alive,
and
it's going well.
Very cool.
Okay. Shall we introduce our guest then?
I think we should.
All right. Tonight we welcome the return of Amanie Illfated. Amanie's last appearance on Song Talk Radio was on May 7th, 2018, when the weather was nice. I'm sure. Amanie Illfated is a South Sudanese-born, Toronto-based singer-songwriter with clear-tone vocals and a flavorful and dynamic fusion of R&B, reggae, Afrobeat, and trap. She was born in what is now known as South Sudan and immigrated to Saskatchewan with her family as refugees in 1992. At the age of 16, she left her family to pursue music in Toronto. She released her highly acclaimed single, The Hills, in August 2018 from her upcoming album called SATURN, which was released on October 19th, 2019. Welcome back to the show, Amanie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ooh, yeah. And on a personal note, I went to go see Amanie's CD release party for SATURN. That was in October, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was
in
about
October,
a month ago.
and I saw you there.
Yes, we saw each other there. And I mean, I would recommend hands down to go check out a live show with Amanie, because she's a credible singer, great performer. and and really, really great songs. I would definitely recommend checking out the album Saturn
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you.
Right on. So what's South Sudan known as now? Was South Sudan, now it's just Sudan?
It was Sudan before.
It was Sudan
and
before.
it's now separated into Sudan and South Sudan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
So what is your songwriting process like these days?
So the process now, it's similar to before, where there's the beat making it, but now there's my producer. I usually send my tracks off to the producer, who changes almost everything. And once it's kind of laid out, then the words just, kind of fall from the sky, as I always feel, and they just kind of land on the paper.
So
and
you
then
actually start with a beat yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For majority of the songs for this album, especially, they started with me, just kind of take the idea to the producer, and he just makes it 10 times better.
How are you doing your beats?
Yeah.
So I know everyone's gonna laugh, but I still use FL Studio.
okay.
Fruity Loops? Fruity Loops? That's
Yeah,
cool.
That's
but a
okay.
very, very old version. I won't tell you which one.
It's old. Hey, it's vintage. It's old.
Oh yeah, it's a very
coming
vintage
back.
version that crashes a lot, and also Reason by Propellerhead.
Oh,
Yeah.
Reason
That
is
one
great.
too.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's easy to use, and
So
it
are
gets
you
my ideas.
using like pre-existing loops, or are you building your own drum patterns and filling in some stuff? Like how does the actual working of it?
The work, I do all the drum loops myself. I do all the synth and everything.
Okay.
So I just kind of put together the chords, the strings the way I want them, the drums the way I would like
You're
them.
playing them on keyboard, or you're mousing them in?
Play them on keyboard.
Okay. And then you send those to your producer,
Yeah.
and you say he changes everything.
And then he changes everything.
What do you mean by he changes everything?
Well, he doesn't change too much.
Yeah, yeah.
For some of the songs, I mean, it was only minor changes.
Right.
But he'll kind of fill up the drums, make it sound really, really good and full.
Okay.
The synths and everything. He has some really cool synths that he always tells me about, and they just really make the vision that I was looking for.
Right
So
on.
do you guys sit down and talk about the vision beforehand, or how does that work out?
Oh, we don't talk much.
Oh, wow.
I just usually walk in and I'm like, here's the beat, and I was joking. B. Morales is actually the producer, so I would walk in there and I would tell him, I need something that sounds like an asteroid traveling through space, and it's frigid cold, and there's a little light in the distance, and somehow he's just like, okay.
Okay, sure.
Turns around and I get exactly what I asked for.
You sure he's not a filmmaker?
Joni Mitchell actually handles things much the same way, I've been told. That
Really?
Well, she's actually a fine artist.
Yes.
And so she'll actually describe things in terms of visuals, like she wants it more blue, or she wants it more, you can use things like contrast. But yeah, I mean, it's a great way of talking about music, because music is a very hard thing to talk about in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
So how long does so you come up with an idea, like do you come up with the sort of the beat, and then that sort of pushes your idea?
Yes. Yes, usually I'll have maybe a few notes that I want to try. So I'll try the synth, then the drum beat comes in. And then once I hear the drum beat, then I feel like I'm more comfortable to build up the strings. And then I add the effects and little things here and there.
When do the lyrics come in then?
The lyrics come in closer to the end.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, to the end. I always have the vision of what I'm going to write already, so it's kind of like almost laid out. But once the producer works on it, then I get like the full idea, the full emotion, and then every word just kind of pops up, and I'm like, oh, that goes there, and that goes there.
Do you use like placeholders for lyrics while you're doing the composing, or
Yeah, I use some placeholders.
so like
Yeah.
it's kind of like dooby dooby doop type things? or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
for usually for the hook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for
So
the hook.
you always write in the hook
Yeah.
via keyboard, whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right on. Without a lyric, necessarily.
Without a lyric, it's just like the idea of it, and then.
And then,
yeah.
but once you write your lyric, do you find that you go back and change some chord choices, or you change the melody of the hook, or you change anything?
It's very rare that I do that.
Yeah.
Usually, if the producer challenges me, then I will go back and rewrite something.
But is it? Do you find it difficult to sort of put in lyrics over an existing? Like if you fixed your beat and you fixed your hook, now you have to write lyrics that conform to that.
It's easier for me.
Yeah.
It's surprising, but once the hook is there, then everything else just flows so easy.
How long does it take you to finish off the lyrics?
Depends on how emotional I am, to be honest. If I'm really in the moment, it could take 15 minutes and it's done.
Wow.
For some songs, especially for this album, there's songs like Sit Back and Sex Talk that took a lot of time just because I had so much to say and I wanted to make sure that I said everything that I wanted to say in as short phrases as possible. So those ones took, Sit Back took about 7 months to write, and then Sex Talk took almost a year and a half to write.
So when you say like 7 months or a year and a half, you're letting it simmer for a while. You're coming back to the lyric and revising it, and then repeating that process. Or?
Yeah, I actually don't even write anything.
Oh, really?
It starts to just conceptualize in my mind, and then, one day I'll be walking down the street. I'll feel like, okay, that sentence goes there. I'll memorize it, and then if the next day it's still there, then it's still there. So then by the time I actually get into the studio to record, I just write it out, and I already memorized it over the past 7 months.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I used to get like a great melody hooks in the shower.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like in the shower, you don't have to. So I would go, oh yeah, no, and then I'd like dry off while humming that tune, and then find like my guitar or piano and figure out what those notes were, because I know I'd forget them as soon as it's. So when you get, how are you keeping track of your?
But then
song?
you just grab your phone and record it on your voice memo. Done.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. Yeah.
That's the easiest thing.
I never thought about
Just
that.
grab that, and then you can always go back to it later and with your piano guitar.
Yeah, I don't really use the phone as much as I probably should. Now, how are you dealing with your ideas as they come up? Are you like writing them down in a book or into your phone, or?
Into the phone, and I have been known to leave the shower to go and record many times. Just, there's the idea. And before I used to kind of wait and simmer on it, but I felt like I was losing a lot of really good ideas because by the time I actually get to the phone, 10 things have come my way and I totally forgot what I was doing. So now my rule is drop everything, record it. Doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing, just stop and record it and then move on.
Do you use any programs on your phone to do this, or just voice memos, or?
Just voice memos right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because do you generally like start a song and then finish it, or do you have like relics of stuff that was never finished?
This album, I had relics of things that were just sitting on.
Like ideas you started but then never got anywhere.
Yeah. There's a couple of them that are still sitting there.
Right. And those are all, you can always revisit them.
Yeah.
But it depends if you, like you say, if you wrote stuff down, if you kept track of it, then you can visit it.
Yeah. I always feel like if I wrote it and it didn't pan out, it's probably because I just didn't feel it at that moment, so I leave it. And then down the road, sometimes down the road, I will think of this idea that I had, 4 years ago that I wrote down some lyrics, and then it just fleshes out just like that.
Okay, so shall we hear a song? Do you want to talk about You'll Never Know? Is it You'll Never Know? You Will Never Know.
You Will Never Know.
You Will Never Know.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about where this song came from?
Yeah, so this is another one where I started the piano and then the drum beat for. So the song is basically addressing people that make a lot of gossip about who you are and they don't really know who you are. So coming from South Sudan to Canada, a lot of people say I'm African. Canadians would say I'm purely African. Africans would say I'm purely Canadian. I would say I'm in between, but I get told I'm too African to be Canadian, too this, to be that. Yeah. And lots of gossip, lots of this. If I speak a different language, then I'm a foreigner. If I speak English, then I'm abandoning my culture. Right. So this is just that paradox.
Right. And that's actually something to listen for as the listeners are listening to these songs, is that it's not only, you're not singing in English 100% of the time. You're flipping to Arabic and French and in this one, what are the other languages you're using in this song?
So this one is just Arabic Juba.
Okay.
So there's 2 lines in there. There's Matakele Mia Haja, so don't say anything.
Okay.
And then there's Umonindi Shamarat Min Kasmafogo, which literally translated means there's gossip in their mouths. But it's basically when people are full of it, talking a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, that's cool. Now, did you write the lines in that language first, or?
For those ones, I wrote the You Will Never Know part first, and then everything else just kind of panned out. With the Arabic part, I did want to write the whole thing in Arabic, but I felt like it just didn't do justice to the 2 cultures.
Are
so to
you
speak.
thinking at all in commercial terms in that? Is it going to reach more people in English? Is it going to reach more people in Arabic? Does that enter the process at all?
When I was writing, I didn't think about that, but I did have in mind that I wanted it to at least reach one South Sudanese girl who's just fed up with having to figure out who she is, and trying to figure out the balance between that. So that's just who I had in mind. Never was really thinking of it as a commercial kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a listen. You Will Never Know by Amanie Illfated.
Just another girl from Kaya, Equatorian, Montequilla Mia Haja. You don't know who I am, and you will never know. You will never know. No, you will never know. You will never know. Just another girl from girl from South Sudan, Montequilla Mia Haja. You don't know who I am, and you will never know. You will never know. No, you will never know. You will never know. Just another girl from Cuba, now Canadian, Montequilla Mia Haja. You don't know who I am, and you will never know. You will never know. No, you will never know. You will never know. Go ahead and say what you want to say. You will never know. You will never know. Only you shall not make us for so long. But don't know who I am. Don't know who I am. Go ahead and say what you want to say. You will never know. You will never know. Only you shall not make us for so long. But don't know who I am. Don't know who I am. Go ahead and say what you want to say. What you want to say. Hey. Well, only you shall not make us for so long. Hey, hey, hey. You will never know, never know. You will never know, you'll never know. You will never know, never know. You will never know, you'll never know. You will never know, never know. You will never know, you'll never know. You will never know, never know. You will never know, you'll never know.
Okay. Bravo.
Brilliant
You Will
stuff.
Never Know by Amanie Illfated.
Thank you.
I love the hook in that.
Yes.
Yeah. the chorus is so is that the first melodic part you came up with then?
Yes.
Yeah.
The you will never know, never know.
It's an interesting structure for the song because, you know, the way you have it actually on the lyric sheets, of course, which you can download from songtalk.ca, is so you have like a verse, and then you will never know is almost like a refrain at the end of the verse.
Yeah.
And it's so hooky. In some ways, you think that you could actually turn it into its its own sort of chorus, which is like sort of kind of more separated from it. It's a really interesting way of handling it. Approach. Did you play around with the structure much on this, or?
No. It literally, when I wrote it, it just happened to be like that.
Oh, neat.
Well, it's interesting because when you treat it like a refrain like that at the end of each verse, it's more of a statement. So you will never know, you will never know.
Yeah.
It's a catchy melody and everything, but you repeat that at the end of everything. But then when you get into the spoken word rap section,
Yeah.
that's where it becomes a little bit more angsty and a
Yeah.
little bit more aggressive and a little bit more like what the chorus would be had you made you will never know
Yeah.
into a chorus. Be more anthemic and more kind of out there.
Yeah.
Right. So that fourth verse kind of serves that same purpose in terms
Yes.
of an energy map.
Of an energy, yes.
Right, because then it builds up into the hook, comes back down to the verse, back into the hook, back into the verse 3 times,
Yeah.
and then it ramps up.
Yeah.
Well, and that sort of acts kind of like a bridge in some ways. You
Yes,
know, it
it
has that sort of energy, and I really love that rap, that kind of spoken word, rapish part, which I think is something that's really hard to do well. And I think a lot of people try to do it with varying levels of success. And but I thought this worked just perfectly with it. Like, it didn't seem like it was forced. It didn't seem like it was, oh, let's throw this in there because it's kind of popular or something.
Yeah, like it wasn't like a guest rapper
Yeah.
came in and
Yeah,
did their
no,
thing that whatever. Like it's not even rap necessarily. It's more like a talk sing.
Yeah.
It's sort of in that range.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
So
Is
how
that
did
something
you-
you do on many of your songs, or?
No, it's just this one. Just because the statements that are made in the verses, I wanted it to be very climactic. So you start off very quiet, and it kind of just talks about like my personality. I used to be just kind of quiet, docile, kind of let everything go. And then it just kind of grows. And as it grows, the tension of the song is growing. And the where I'm mentioning in there is also growing. So small village, Kaya. Then suddenly you're going to Ye, which is the state. Then you're suddenly going to the country, which is just another girl from Juba, South Sudan.
Right.
Then mentioning Canada
And
in there. So
Canadian,
you're starting to get
yeah.
international and bigger. And then it swells up into that part where it's just like, you know what, I'm fed up. Let me just let you know what's going on.
Right on.
So what was at what part in the song did you decide to add that part? Was that sort of right from the very beginning?
No, that was closer to the end. Once I had the strings and everything done, I already had a drum that I had in mind that I wanted, and that was supposed to come in earlier. But then
Oh, really?
it was a computer glitch, a little bit of me not putting it in the right place, and then it came in at that point, and I was like, wait. And then I restructured it to be that it just builds up and then gets into that the drum loop there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting approach because I know, like Brian, always believes that there is there are no mistakes. So if you do make a mistake, you don't actually like delete it, but you actually find a way to work with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that idea about the growth, like, so it almost was a happy accident. Maybe
Yeah.
the drum came in later, and then did the energy of the music then influence the way that the lyric sort of maps its way through the. Because the lyric, like you're just talking about, the lyric sort of has this growth aspect to it as well, right?
Yeah. Just because the lyrics came in later. Originally, I was going to try to keep it a little bit more toned down, but just, I think in the studio, we kind of let it go completely. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing with that. That just, I think it really makes the track into something really special.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting song, but it would be hard to know where to take it because you have like the sort of verse and the chorus. It's very kind of sort of much of the muchness all the way through, and the end just kind of makes it really explode into something that's really incredible.
And that fourth section with the speak sing, the beat is the same, right? Like the chord progression underneath is the same. It's just the
same.
talk singing, the more aggressive attitude, the heavier drums, the
Heavier
everything
guitar
about it. Heavier
even.
guitar,
Yeah.
Everything in there just kind of grows, but really it's like a 4-chord song all the way through.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, 4 chords in the truth. It's
4 chords in the
Yeah.
truth. Can't go wrong.
So, like, how long did this particular song take from like conception to actually the finished recording?
Well, I started this one in 2016. Just kind of, I had my part of it. I kind of shelved it a little bit for a while. Then earlier this year with B. Morales, I just kind of played it for him, and I'm like, are you able to make this, a good vision? And he was like, I love it. Just leave me alone. He likes to kind of be on his own, do his thing. And then when I came back, I was like, whoa, okay. So all in all, it took, I guess, if you were to compound all the hours, it would have taken maybe a week, but took 2 years to kind of get to
a
him.
week spread over 2 years.
Yeah, 2-3 years to get it to him.
So
Yeah.
does B. Morales, does he give you any suggestions on like melodies or lyrics or chords or anything like that?
He's
Or just kind of really works with what you give him?
He works mostly with what I give him. I do ask for his opinion, but one thing that's amazing about working with him is that he only gives the opinion when it's absolutely necessary. So there's only he loves when the artist is more creative and taking control over things.
Right.
Sometimes you'll run into some producers, I'm sure you've heard, who want to change absolutely everything and leave nothing, you know. So he's just absolutely amazing in the sense that he just hears it and understands what you're trying to do, and then just gets what you're trying to do. There's no ego involved with it.
It just amplifies what you're trying to
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
How did you manage to meet him?
So I met him at a conference in Toronto. So I forgot the name of it. It was a hip hop conference. So we had a session where we had to play a track. So I played The Hills, which was produced by SATURN, and in front of the whole group. And he heard it and he absolutely loved it. And so just one day he sent me a message on Instagram and said, "Hey, guess what? I'd like to work with you." So since then we've been working together for almost just over a year now. Yeah, we've been. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, doing that networking thing is really important, you know?
Yes.
So, but how did you find the producer for The Hills then?
That's a crazier story. Yeah. So on Instagram, just some AKTV. I've never met him before. I never even knew who he was, and he just sent me a message and said, "Hey, there's a studio in Brampton. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Wow, I'm totally gonna get killed, but let's do this." Okay. So I went out, and the studio turned out to be Satnam Singh Chatha's studio, Five Rivers Production, and. Yeah, since then we worked on a few tracks, but the two that we released was The Hills and Peacemaker for the album.
Yeah. So have you worked with quite a few producers, it seems? Yes.
Those are the two main ones. But B. Morales did most of the work on the album, and then there's my drummer who one day just kind of nudged me and said, "Hey." So I know I drum, but I also produce, in case you want to hear a song. So I was like, "Oh wow, okay, let me hear." And it turned out to be "Sit Back," the trap song. So he's an amazing drummer, and I was just so shocked when he produced as well. I was like, "Okay, we got to put this on the album for sure."
Are you doing any collaboration with anyone other than producers, or?
No collaborations in the works right now, but for the album we did have Noise. He's a hip-hop rapper based in Brampton. He was on there. And then just other producers, local producers. I've been working with them.
No collaborations in terms of songwriting?
Not in terms of songwriting, yeah. But hopefully in the future we can get some more.
That's something you're interested in?
Get something going. Yes. For this album there wasn't a lot, but next album definitely I want to get some more people in. And see what happens.
And speaking about things that are next, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Hey, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Song Talk Radio, streaming on songtalk.ca, and tonight we're chatting with singer-songwriter Amanie Illfated. Don't forget, we love to hear from you, even during the show, so why don't you send your thoughts and questions to us on... Send us to us on Twitter at Song Talk Radio, Facebook or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email to feedback@songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts and answer your questions right here on the show. Coming up on Song Talk Radio in the next couple of weeks, November 19th, it's the second annual holiday gift guide where we share suggestions for gifts for the songwriter, musician in your life. It can be a web service, it could be a product, could be a book, anything you think a songwriter, a musician, or even yourself would like, send it to us. Well, actually, you can do that now.
You can do that.
Just say no, kids. And don't forget, marijuana always leads to Dixieland music. November 26th, it's Juno Award-winning musician Steve Strongman. And that's going to be a great show. We're really looking forward to that. Back to you, Neely.
Phil, what do you have against Dixieland music?
Actually, I love Dixieland.
Dixieland music is the best thing ever.
I can, when people start playing Dixieland music, I can't stop laughing. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's just great.
You can't possibly listen to Dixieland music and not smile.
I know, it's great
so
stuff.
joyful.
There's also that episode of Seinfeld with Elaine and I'm not going to give it away, but there's like a contest and she knows all about Dixieland music because her dad used to listen to it. It's very funny and she can name them all and
Wow, Dixieland trivia. In a
real
Seinfeld
good.
episode. Good stuff. So we had, how did this come about? We were talking about voicings last week. Remember that, Phil?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, voicings. Yes.
Where did that come from? Someone emailed us?
Yeah, someone...
Oh, he was going to do a blog article.
Yes.
So
So
we
we're looking
always
forward to
invite our listeners, if you got an interesting article to write about, if you check out songtalk.ca, hit the blog. We have a couple of guest writers on there. We write some interesting articles about songwriting and other interesting things.
Yes.
So someone wrote about voicings, voicings when it comes to songwriting and how it's important to understand voicings if you're playing guitar or if you're playing piano. And then we were like, well, what does voicings mean? Because he didn't explain what voicings mean. So I looked it up, and it turns out that the suggestions that we were talking about, Phil, I was 70% right and you were 30% right.
Well, nice of you to point that out.
Yeah, and which is why I'm bringing this up, right? So, in fact, if you look up voicing on Wikipedia, the first definition is actually what you were talking about: how a musician or group distributes or spaces notes and chords on one or more instruments.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like the bass is playing down there, the guitar's in the middle,
yeah.
the soprano singer's up here, and we got good voicings throughout the arrangement. The second definition they give, which is the one I was talking about, this simultaneous vertical placement of notes in relation to each other. This relates to the concepts of spacing and doubling. So the example they used was what I was talking about. If you have a C major chord, is the C on top, is the E on top, or is the G on top? Are they inverted? Right. So actually, both definitions are true. But I'm saying I was 70% right because the rest of the Wikipedia page is about that second definition.
Or maybe I was so wrong and they just didn't need to go into
Yeah,
it so much.
they felt the need to mention it, but that was about it.
Yeah, because it was so right. I'd be like, the sky is blue.
It's just obvious to
you don't
everybody.
have to write pages about the sky is blue. The sky is just blue.
But certainly that's have you heard this term before, Amanie?
No, actually, it's the first
voicings?
time I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, because I mean, especially if you're developing a beat and you're playing your string part,
Yeah.
like whatever note is on top is going to lead the melody.
Exactly.
Right, and that's where voicings come in. Like you're playing a chord, you can play the chord with any one of the 3 or 4 or 5 notes that governs the top, because whatever's on top is generally what's going to be seen as the melody.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and push the shape of a melody in that way. So it is important, and I don't know how. I mean, guitarists, if you're just playing open chords, whatever note's on top is whatever note's on top. I don't know. I presume it's easier to think about when you're playing piano than when you're playing guitar. Maybe you can.
It is,
elaborate
yeah. I
on
mean,
that.
the two instruments are very different. And actually, when I'm writing on my own, I'll often go between the two instruments because they both want to do different kinds of things because they
Right.
lay it out in a different way. But definitely, especially like very, very good guitarists can certainly change the voicings. Like you can play like a C chord or a C ninth chord in about 500 different ways all over the
Yes.
neck, depending on where you want to.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of maybe experience is sort of knowing about where to play. If the piano is playing this and the singer is playing like an octave higher. Where do you want your notes to go? And you have to be conscious that you don't want to be like stepping on the vocalist's notes or the piano players or that kind of thing. So
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Like you're saying, in a band arrangement situation, then it tends to play a strong part.
yes,
You
and
wanna
that's
go do that.
that's something that like a producer will be able to help you with. Usually
Yeah.
because very often when musicians get together, they all start they count to 4 and everyone starts playing, and then everyone just kind of plays and they all stop and they go, okay, because that sounded okay. And a producer will sit there and go, well, maybe you shouldn't be playing there, or maybe the second guitarist drops out during the verse and comes in the chorus.
Or
and
maybe
all
you
those
use a
things.
different voicing there.
Yeah, or different voicings. Yeah, it's a very important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're looking forward to that that article, and we expect it on our desk probably by 5 o'clock tomorrow. That should be enough, I think.
9 a.m. Monday.
9 a.m. Monday. Okay.
Make them work on the weekend.
That's right.
Okay, shall we hear another song from Amanie Illfated?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is The Hills. And you released this actually over a year ago
Yes.
as a single, and then it made
Yes.
its way onto your album.
Yeah.
Right. And you didn't change it in between? It was whatever it was?
I felt it tied into the whole SATURN concept.
What is the SATURN concept?
The SATURN concept is
This is
Basically.
interesting because no one does concept albums anymore, but here we go.
No, it's good.
Okay, so Saturn is the planet, it's a beautiful planet that's just kind of is from the distance. Everybody looks at it and sees its beauty, sees its colors, sees its rings, and they're in awe. But when you look deep down into the planet, there's a lot of toxicity in there. There's a lot of storms. There's a lot of, it's uninhabitable. You can't live there. Even the rings around it are, a catastrophe. They were asteroids that are smashed to pieces, or so they say. So people see the beauty, but they don't know the pain. They don't know the toxicity. And I find that with a lot of my life, people have just looked, but never actually gone in. And that's why the album Saturn has come to be. It talks a lot about the deep traumas, the deep issues that I face. Even there is a little bit of happiness in there too as well, but it's just most of the stuff that contradicts the whole beauty, nothing deeper than that.
So there's multiple languages on the song as well. Do you normally have multiple languages in your songs?
Not normally. This is one of the first kind of songs that I did that with. I always loved languages. At one point in my life, I think I've probably told you, I decided to go study Russian and
Study Russian?
How many languages do you speak?
Right now it's 3.
Okay.
So, but
Wow. So do you speak Russian?
yeah, просто немного. Просто
a little
немного. Я плохо говорю по-русски.
You could, of course, say anything and we wouldn't go, wow, that sounds pretty good.
But you'll have people call in and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
For all I know, you're just reading off like a Russian menu, That's like meatball Subway, sandwich.
Borscht. I love borscht.
Russian is a really hard language to translate. They're very different languages, apparently.
They are. But I don't know. I find it easy. I know it sounds bizarre, but once I got the hang of it, I was like, oh, this all makes sense to me. So
Do you find it, I only speak one language. I don't even speak French, which is pretty terrible because, we had French in public school, but,
Nobody listened.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Well, yeah, it wasn't good. But I've always thought that, if you learn how to speak another language, that it helps you think in sort of more complex ways because you have another framework to hang your concepts on. Do you think knowing these other languages helps sort of maybe from a poetical standpoint?
it helps and it also hinders at the same time, just because you have to learn a whole new grammar set just to understand certain things in other languages. Like, for example, in Arabic Juba, when we say we want to call you, so I'm going to call you, you say Arabidugu, ita, so, or telefon taki. But also, if you want to say that you're going to beat someone, you say Arabidugu ita. So there's Arabidugu ita or Arabidugu ita.
Oh boy.
They sound exactly the same.
Yeah, they sound pretty much the same. It's just
yeah.
a matter of how you say it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Russian, one thing that changed my English when I was speaking is, in English, you just say, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to work. In Russian, a lot of the grammar focuses on how you're getting there. So when you say you're going somewhere, it's like, I go by car. I go by foot. So I found that when I'm trying to tell someone where I'm going, I'll suddenly say something like, oh, I'm going by foot to the store. I'm like, okay. And everyone will look at me like, why do you have to be so specific?
As opposed to horseback?
Yeah. So I'll be like, oh, I'm going by car, or I'm going by metro or by train to
by canoe.
somewhere. Yeah. You have to
really
be
cool.
very particular.
Yeah.
So I never thought about that until like after years of studying it. Then I was like, oh, wait, I'm switching my English because of that. And then also, even if I speak to my aunt in English, I wind up changing my grammar for her so that she can process it easier. And then when I meet someone who maybe speaks French or speaks another language, I try to figure out how their pattern, the patterns are and the grammar is, and then I change my English so that it is more easy to understand for them. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Do you do translations services as well, or?
No, because I'm more conversational. I'm not like fluent.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, if you could drop me somewhere and I'll figure it out.
But do you find that is it just as easy in English and Arabic to write poetry? Because there's always a difference between, okay, are you conversational? Are you even fluent, but can you write poetry?
Poetry, no. I'll say no, because English is kind of it's that place that I know the words and I know like the double meanings to everything. So
Yeah.
I feel like I write better with English.
Like you can do a metaphor in English where you can't really.
Yeah, like even with You Will Never Know, it was difficult to be able to say what I wanted to say about the gossip, the shamarat, because we have different ways of saying that. But I wanted to say it, but I also was kind of translating it the way I would say it in English. So that's how come the sentence, for some people, it's like, oh, how is it they have gossip in their mouths? And if you really break it down to how it's said, that's literally the translation. But to Arabic,
but that's
Juba
not how
people-
they say it.
They understand it.
Yeah.
It's not really how they would say it because we'd say it's something like I was telling someone, it's like gilbataki gifurufuru, so your heart is going to be burning or boiling, mashamarat. So. But I wanted to just kind of make it sound a little bit different.
But I mean,
so.
having gossip in your mouth is such a much more interesting way of saying that they gossip or they talk a lot. It's a much more interesting way. They always say, the thing about art is about making the familiar new and the new familiar. It's supposed to change your reality somewhat. And I think that's the great thing about having that kind of approach to language, is because it helps you say something in sort of an interesting way. I've never heard anyone say they have gossip in their mouth.
Yeah.
What a great line.
It's a really great line. It's kind of like it's less active. It's like it's not them doing it, but they have it in their mouths.
Yeah, they have it in their mouths. Yeah.
So it's there. So why don't we listen to The Hills, and we'll talk about it after.
Yeah. Amanie Illfated. Five Rivers. They don't like who we are, 'cause we come from afar. History in our blood. Borders broken by floods. And we all say, Hola, Ni hao, Salam, Salut, Kid, run to the hills now. Hola, Ni hao, Salam, Salut, Kid, run to the hills now. Hola, Ni hao, Salam, Salut, Kid, run to the hills now. Hola, Ni hao, Salam, Salut, Kid, run to the hills now. Hey,
Okay, that was The Hills by Amanie Illfated.
Brilliant song.
Beautiful song.
Thank you.
So this song had more of a bridge than the other one,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So did that come early, late? Did that...
That came original. That was the plan for it. For it to be so long was kind of added in as this song developed.
So it got longer as you
Yeah,
worked on
it got a lot longer.
So what was out in the first... What was not there in the first draft?
So what happened, because I took the song, originally I wrote it on my own, and then I tried to write it with a band, didn't work out, tried to produce it myself, didn't work out. So then Satnam heard the song, and he revamped the whole entire beat. But what I had in the verse was just a really light, simple, like, vocal. It wasn't even anything significant. And just one day he comes and he's like, listen, I'm going to make a suggestion. Don't take it offensively, but I think you should rewrite the verse. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you can do better, so go and try and do better. And that's
you,
where...
You had lyrics in the verse?
Yeah, sorry, not the verse, the bridge.
Okay.
And then I went and rewrote the bridge. So that's where you have that part. And then just to make that emphasis of should we be hated for wanting better lives, that's when he added the guitar solo in there. So I feel like it really drives the message, and that's the last thing you hear before the guitars come in.
I think that's great. You know, it's really an important thing to, as an artist, to not be too precious about our work and realize that it's, you know, as craftspeople, and that's always, I say, the difference between someone who's like a hobbyist and someone who wants to be a professional. As a hobbyist will say, oh, this is perfect, it can't be anything different. Whereas a professional realizes that, you know, maybe that line isn't good enough. Elvis Costello is, I remember reading something, he was, an interview with him, he says, you know, he has a song that he's working for, like it takes him like a year, or like 1 or 2 years, because there's like this one line that he just can't get right, and goes, that's just not good enough, that's just not good enough, that's not good enough. And I think that's the difference between someone who's just playing around, someone who really wants to be, you know, master the craft of songwriting, is going through that and going, okay, is that word, you know, is that line strong enough? Can I do better? Because, you know, when you, like, we've heard thousands of songs over the years, and you can really tell people who've gone through and worried about those little things, and people who just kind of, you know, they kind of go through it and go, well, this isn't great, but it's good enough, you know? But I just, it's, the chorus is so great. It's really hooky. I love the, and we all say the way it kind of, it's kind of a bit of a pre-chorus in some ways, and in fact the way it sort of gets you ready for,
it gets you revved up for the chorus.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the first line of the chorus sort of is, it's like, it's really the cave, which really hits as the chorus. But the way they hit the Run to the Hills Now, you know, which is such, you know, those very fast notes, and then the long now is so effective as a hook, I thought.
Yeah, it's a great hook. Yeah, and getting back to what you're saying about collaboration, Phil, it goes back to what you're saying, Amanie, about checking your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Right, and saying to yourself, like, okay, we can play around in this other area for a little while. Let's rewrite the bridge. Let's try that chord. Let's try that melody change. Let's see how it sounds, and live with it for a little while and see if it sort of grows on you, or if it sort of, you know, does it actually work?
Yeah.
Does it actually work? Visit it the next. I always find this for myself. I write something, record it into my computer, whatever. The datum test is listen to it the next day.
Yeah.
And the next day, if I'm like, was I completely out of my mind? Like, what is this? And then sometimes it's like, no, I got to tear this down and start again. Or I was on a pretty good track here. Let's try and develop it more, right?
Yeah.
And certainly getting another set of ears on something like that. So is this ended up being one of your longer songs then? Because the other one. You Will Never Know, it was pretty short.
Yeah.
Like,
You Will Never Know is short. This one is one of the longer ones. And there's another one, Like I'm Yours.
Is that something you're
there.
cognizant of? That you want songs to be, you know, 3 minutes ish, or do you care?
I was notorious back then for the 4 minute and 50 second song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I had to slow down and stop doing that because I felt like I wasn't affecting the message as well. With this one, part of the reason why it started the whole album, and the whole checking the ego at the door and really just focusing in, was that I was thinking about my father when I was writing this one. So I just wanted to make sure every word meant something, so that if he was listening back, he could, you know, definitely absorb it, but it's not too long that it's almost like the messaging is lost in
No, and
somewhere.
it's really nice that it's not that specific as to your father's specific story.
Yeah.
That it's open to anyone's
Yes.
experience. That's kind of the kind of been through any of this or seen any of this firsthand or secondhand, whatever. Like it's quite evocative in that way. Like the imagery is nicely put and it's clear what it's about, and the use of the language is really interesting because you got hello in 5 different languages.
Yes.
And then the kaf. What does the kaf mean? You have it on the lyric sheet.
The kif is in Arabic juba. It's
Yeah.
just the short version of like a kifin,
Okay.
kifinta. So it's like saying hi, how are you?
So did they actually say kaf, or they always go for
yeah,
longer?
well, kifinta.
Kifinta, okay.
And so for us, we say like kifin, kifinta. But kif is just kind of like the short slang
It's the slang version?
Yeah.
Okay. What made you want to put that in there?
So
Why not just do hello in Arabic Judah?
because the concept of it is basically it's about the racism being experienced here. So I always say, my parents came from Africa to here, and they expected, the tree money growing from trees, and every house is the size of a mansion. But when they face the realities of here, the first line just kind of picks up on that. They don't like who we are, but who we are means anyone who comes from another country coming here. It could be you're coming in from China and you come here and you're trying to settle, and for some reason you feel slighted, and it's because of where you're from. You could be from Japan, you could be from India, you could be from any part of Africa, any part of South America, and you feel slighted.
Which is what really the hola, ni hao, salam,
Yeah.
salute, that really speaks to
Yes.
that, the multicultural aspect of it. You could be from anywhere.
Yes, you could be from
doesn't
anywhere.
matter.
So then there's like the hi, how are you? Run to the hills now. And the hills is in reference to not just an actual physical hill, but like Parliament Hill, Capitol Hill, Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I thought that was
any
really
type
cool.
of hill that you
Yeah, because you
feel is
mentioned
prestigious.
Beverly Hills in here somewhere.
What is
Yeah.
Beverly Hills? Oh,
The
Hills of Beverly.
as in the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or 90210.
Yeah.
When you said Beverly, for some reason I always think of the Beverly Tavern in Toronto. But I guess it's,
No.
I don't even know if that's around anymore. It's, I love the multilingual aspect of the work. What was the scatterings of Africa? Jaluka?
In the 80s?
Yeah, in the 80s. From South Africa, he would do a lot of multilingual things.
Can't think right now. Yeah, okay.
Yes. But it's because it doesn't seem forced. It just seems like it's these beautiful words, and of course, because if you're just listening to the radio, it just sounds like beautiful words. You don't necessarily know what it means. I remember when 99 Luftballons, first played,
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
all in German. Of course, like most people didn't speak German.
Yeah. And then she did an English one.
Yeah.
Whichever one hated, and I don't know, I was kind of more familiar with your English one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, well, I love the multilingual stuff. I think it's especially in Canada, it's a fascinating approach, I think. Yeah.
And so you said this one took a long time before you took it to producer, but when you first wrote it, you wrote the whole thing sort of quickly?
Yeah.
Like all the lyrics included and everything?
It's going to sound bizarre, but like the idea actually came to me while I was sleeping.
Okay.
So I remember I had this dream and I was in this forest and I kept hearing like hello, hello, but not just in English. It was in different languages.
Oh, yeah.
So when I woke up and I was like, I think that's a good idea for a song.
Yeah.
And then I kind of wrote the hook.
Yeah.
And then once I got the beat kind of planned out, then I wrote the words. Then the band kind of took over and it didn't work out, and then to the producer.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, quickly time goes by.
I know.
Wow,
Can you
wow.
believe it?
can
That's
believe
been
it.
an hour.
And that is all the time we have tonight on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to our guest, Amanie Illfated.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much
Thank
for coming.
you.
Where can our listeners check out more of your music?
Yeah, so you can check out www.amanieillfated.com. So I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, the social media, Facebook.
At Amanie Illfated?
Yeah, Amanie Illfated.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll certainly link to that from our
And
Song Talk
and
site.
that is spelt AMANIE ILLFATED.
Yes.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes. And please send us your impressions on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. And please stop by the site at songtalk.ca for a whole lot more. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher.com, Spotify, Podcast Addict, TuneIn.com, and don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter at songtalk.ca. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page at songtalk.ca. And if you're in the Toronto area, please join us. Our next Song Talk meetup is on Sunday, November 17th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Transact Club.
Ooh, that's soon.
That's this weekend.
Oh, that's right, isn't it?
It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. If you're hearing this on podcast, I think the podcast will be dropped about the same time the meetup is going on, so hurry down. You'll still be able to catch us at the end. And thanks to, actually, by the time you finish listening to the show, then maybe it's, I don't know. Thank you to Rita and Vanessa for handling our social medias tonight. And thank you to Phil for doing double duty on the tech board.
I know, no huge periods of silence. So
No periods of silence. We're gonna double your salary.
also rich.
And a big thank you to Vanessa, who's in the house, for all her help with us behind
Vanessa,
the scenes.
thank you.
Thank you. And most of all, we'd like to thank you, our devoted listener.
Thank you.
You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
The Phil Emery on Twitter.
You can follow Rita.
Miss Rita 256.
Miss Rita
and Vanessa.
Sunny_Vanessa.
On Twitter.
Yes.
And Amanie, what's your favorite social media channel, Amanie?
My favorite right now is Instagram.
Instagram. Amanie Illfated on Instagram.
Yes.
And stop by the website, songtalk.ca, browse past shows, and find out how you can be a guest. Keep on writing.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Woo!